Hi. So I'm Srinidhi Varadarajan. I'm the VP and GM of the data protection business. So bit of background, I come from a technical background. So I was one of the founders of Aperture, which was acquired by Dell, became the nucleus of the data protection group. The second part was I was an academic. I taught computer science. I was a tenured professor at Virginia Tech for 13 years. Did a lot in large-scale systems. So data centers, I've built them, big ones. And generally, they're quite a bit of fun. So background is technical. Before I begin, though, I do have to quote a few studies just to keep marketing happy.
You know we throw things when you mention
Gartner.
Oh.
I think we are done. So with that, I'm done with my...
Some coffee.
We could make him wear the cheese head.
There you go. That was the whole point of it.
Shame.
Yeah, the cone of shame. Yes.
So now that the studies are out of the way, you can get to what it is that we actually do. First, backup. The saying your grandma's backup. The first impression people get of backup is, hey, I used to copy files back in the 70s. The very first time the first program was written, the next thought that came into the programmer's head was, wait, I need to make a copy of this. There's backup. Okay, it's a Fortran of the IT world. It's been the oldest application that's been out there. And 50 years in the future, I don't care what your next big killer application is, backup is still going to be there. Because the guy, at the end of the day, unless he's got Miss Cleo's telepathic backup mechanism, there will be a piece of software at the end of the day that does that.
Jail.
That's true. That's why that doesn't work. So the thing, what has happened over the last probably, as it picked up pace in the 80s, the 90s, and then the 2000s, and the big paradigm shifts is, it has moved away from being a simple, make a copy of my file, keep it somewhere, keep it on tape most likely, to something that's bigger. It's evolving from being a point product that just does backup and recovery to something that encompasses replication, being able to make copies of your data in multiple places, and disaster recovery on top of it. And what is leading the charge in disaster recovery is this paradigm shift that shouldn't be news to anybody here. The advent of the cloud. The cloud is much more than what backup systems today are using them for. They're using them as dumb storage. Think of it as a faster Iron Mountain, if you will. But that's not what the cloud is about. Cloud is not just storage. And there is quite a few things we're doing in there that take it beyond that particular mode in which it's being used. And finally, virtualization, 15 years now. Integrated support for virtualization in physical systems, where you have one holistic view of your data and one holistic view of your backup solutions. This is something that is required, and this is something that we're building, and I'll show you from our roadmap what we're doing there. One thing I should mention is I tend to speak without breathing. So please interrupt me in between anytime you want to. Otherwise, you won't get a word in edgewise. Next slide, please. So where are we going? So if you look, say, 14 months ago, Dell had no in-house data protection IP. We were a reseller of other companies' products. And if you look on the left, which was 14 months ago, this is all the set of companies that form data protection today inside Dell. So you had Backbone, you had Vision Core, you had Aperture, you had Ocarina, and you had SonicWall. All independent entities, all with different portions of the data protection portfolio. And this is what we are combining.
The sequel thing from Quest.
I'm sorry?
You left out the sequel thing from Quest.
Lightspeed.
Yeah.
Yes, that actually is part of the data protection portfolio itself. But that's a good point, actually. Yeah. I should have put Quest as a whole rather than Vision Core and Backbone because it was neither Vision Core nor Backbone. But yes, Lightspeed and Recovery Manager, which is the other component as well. Recovery Manager tends to have a different attach sequence, but Lightspeed definitely is a part of our portfolio. So the thing that we have managed to do today and what we are planning on over the next, say, 18 to 24 months, actually now about 14 to 20 month cycle, which we're well along the way of. So today what we worked on is integrating all these pieces of IP together such that they generally have a core set of competencies. Doing recoveries very quickly, RPOs and RTOs in minutes. Integrated support for compression, deduplication built directly into the product. The ability to do replication, disaster recovery, recovers VMs into a cloud infrastructure. All of these are individual capabilities we've got. Some products have them, some products don't. What we're building together tomorrow is an integrated portfolio that combines all of them together. So Dell went from having having no data protection products 14 months ago to having a glut of data protection products. So when we first formed the unit, we had about 11 products. And many of these products, if you kind of drew any kind of matrix over there and said, these are my features and these are my products, you'd find a whole bunch of overlap in there. So then the question is, how do you sell to that? Or how does the customer figure out, oh, I should buy this or I should buy that? Sometimes the features overlap in there. So the thing that we're doing is we're actually shrinking the portfolio by combining multiple products together, ending up with just 3, basically. One product that handles the mid-market and SMB, one product that handles the enterprise, and a third that does laptop and desktop protection across. Effectively, the goal is you come to one vendor for all of your backup needs. So whether it be all the way from laptop, desktop to an enterprise server, everything in between, it's a single vendor. And that's one of our core strengths here. We probably have the broadest portfolio out there of any other player in the backup space. The solution sale is a much easier one. I mean, you walk into a mid-market customer and say, or even an enterprise customer and say, do you want to buy 2 backup products? One for your laptop, desktop environment, and potentially one for your remote office, and a third one for your enterprise servers. If not, you should be looking at something that plays well together. Part 1. Part 2, we're doing something that's a bit unusual in this space. All of these products will talk to each other. So if you started off on the mid-market product and you wanted to go to the enterprise product, it's not a rip and replace. Today, if you look at competing products, it's a rip and replace. They have one product for the mid-market, one product for the enterprise, and they don't really talk the same backup formats. So effectively,
Depends which competitor you're talking about.
true.
The C guys just have one product.
The C guys have one product, but the
S
C
guys-
guys don't. Right, the S guys are different. But the C guys, if you look at it,
It's mid-market and up. They don't go.
it's mid-market and up. They don't go below. That is the problem. So if you want the whole portfolio in there, there really is no player. The S guys do talk lower down, but then they don't talk the same thing. So this is what we are working on right now. So between 18 and 20 months, you'll see both these integrated products come out. Prior to that, we're also doing something else. We're actually going to combine our products into soft bundles, which are sold. Effectively, you don't buy a product. You buy a capacity bundle. So that way, you're not choosing between our products based on one feature or the other. You shouldn't have to be in that position. After all, the products are indeed getting integrated. If so, you should be able to take advantage of it now.
So you're going to end up with one product that will be able to access the data that I created with Backbone and with Vision Core and with Aperture?
So that is the plan.
And with SonicWall's CDP?
With the SonicWall CDP piece. So the interesting thing is it's not one product. It's actually 2 products. One that will be the mid-market product. It uses the same format and the same back-end techniques, which is where I need to bring up what we are doing with Ocarina. So Ocarina, if you look, is our deduplication appliance. But apart from deduplication, it does something a little more interesting. It has RDA, this O3 engine, which effectively, while it presents as CIFS or NFS front end, in the back, it actually is an object store. And it does a lot of clever things in there, including the ability to do synthetic roll-ups without actually moving data, number one. Number 2, it also does source-side deduplication. That is getting integrated directly as the common backend for all of them. So the heavy lifting is being borne by Ocarina technology in the back. And that's why all these products effectively are writing to the same place. The second thing that we are doing, which I'll come to in a little bit in more detail, is we're integrating block technology across our portfolio. And that is something that is unique. But I will get to that 2 slides later and not speak ahead.
One quick question.
Absolutely.
Would they have the same user interface, or would you?
That's a very good question. So will they have the same user interface, or will they be different? In the beginning, they will most likely be different. The reason I say that is because of the following. But there will be a common way to manage them across if you need it. So our mid-market customers and our enterprise customers, we expect them to effectively, even though they may be using different products, the capabilities are true supersets of each other. So they will be using one or the other.
Okay.
Earlier, that was not the case. Our mid-market customers got a certain set of capabilities. Our enterprise customers got a different set of capabilities. And the enterprise product was not always a superset of the mid-market product. So you would see deployments where both existed. That's not going to be true going forward for us. So each of this would have its own interface. But there's a third management console where if you have both mid-market and the enterprise product deployed, you'll be able to manage it from one place. Even our first products that are coming out with SonicWall CDP technology and our mid-market product, you'll have a single management console for both of them.
Thank you.
But that is an important aspect. Manageability becomes an issue otherwise. So basic tenets that we're holding across the entire portfolio. ability to back up very rapidly, recover very rapidly. And we want to provide this across, whether it be an enterprise customer or whether it be a mid-market customer. What is a bit unusual is, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, is normally you would think that if a company has an enterprise product and a mid-market product, what you would normally do is take the enterprise product, skinny it a little bit, and sell it to the mid-market. Basically, defeature the enterprise product. Usually, the enterprise product is a superset of the mid-market product. That's actually not true in data protection. Mid-market products, most of those companies that sell them grew up from the startup world. The only way they could make a dent in the space was by having something unique. Those features have not yet crept into the enterprise products. So net result, you have capabilities like image backup, image recovery, export to VM. Enterprise products are missing them. Mid-market products have them. Enterprise products are missing them. Net result, an enterprise product is not an actual superset of a mid-market product. Enterprise products predominantly tend to be file-based products. They may do some snapshot management, for example, but they don't do true block-based file backup and recovery of entire servers. They recover your data. This is something that we are looking to change. Our products will have the same set of capabilities across the portfolio, and the enterprise product will be a true superset of the mid-market product. You will not lose any capabilities going from mid-market to enterprise. The second thing is flexible environments. The software that can handle physical, virtual, mixed mode environments effectively and do it well. Third part of it is backup and business continuity, disaster recovery, all from one solution. You should not have three products, a backup product, a replication product, and potentially a DR product. And DR is more than just taking your data over to an offsite facility. I mean, if you went to any large company that provided true disaster recovery services, actual data center disaster recovery services, what do they say? They say, look, if the site went down, if your primary site went down, I have to recover all the servers, bring up all your applications, bring up the networks, basically bring the systems up on the other side, and they should be operational in that live, customers should be able to use it. Now, that is not what DR is in the backup world today, right? Today in the backup world, you end up with, you take a backup, you replicate it over the wire. On the other side, you have the ability to get your data back. But can you stand your servers back up? And therein lies a gap. You have to install the OS image or have some VM, ingest the data into it, or mount it as your D drive or E drive or something, and be able to use it. But that is not true disaster recovery.
DR is a business problem. It's not a product problem, though. So it's moving. You're talking about moving ones and zeros, and most backup products do that. They say, well, we're going to back it up to another place.
Correct.
So you already do that. That's what backup is.
That's correct.
So
what is the next step there?
So you're going to create a business product or a technical product?
It's a technical product. So the technical, if I look at backup as a pure technical product, right? It does move ones and zeros.
Yeah.
But what it recovers is data. So I distinguish these two modes. One is backup of data and recovery of data versus backup of servers with an application stack and recovery of the whole server. So what is the difference?
But that's a transition that's basically been made over the past 5 or 6 years. That if you're talking about net backup 6 that backs up files, sure.
Correct.
But if you're talking about vRanger or Veeam or Aperture or any of the current generation of backup applications, that they're the unit of backup isn't the file anymore.
That's correct.
The unit
is
of backup
image-based backup. That is exactly
the
right.
image, and so we're bringing that back. But even that is a small part of the DR problem, because I'm going to replicate. I'm going to make first of all, I'm going to make a backup. I'm going to replicate it, which means that my RPO is whatever my backup frequency is, which is likely to be a day, which is not nearly good enough for a lot of applications.
True, but that used to be the case. But
even if it's 20 minutes, it's not nearly good enough for a lot of applications. But once I'm in that other site, I have all of the system setup problems that SRM in the VMware world addresses. That if I'm going to bring this application back up, it's going to need to have a different set of IP addresses. One image isn't enough. I've got to bring up
a sequence of them.
First, I got to bring up multiple applications in the right order, in the right environment, and so there's a lot of orchestration.
That is correct. So I fully agree with that. Now let me bring up a couple of counterpoints. One is, if you're looking for true DR, right, or near DR capabilities, what you want to look at is near CDP levels of windows. So for most critical servers, you'd be looking at replication windows in the 5 to 15 minute range.
Yeah.
Which is non-trivial, generally speaking, from the backup system to be able to manage that.
No, it's not a backup problem anymore. It's a storage problem.
It's a storage problem
it's a continuous thing. You know, backup conceptually
is not a window problem.
Is an incremental process.
That's correct. So that's part one. Part two of it is being able to export these continuously to VMs. So remember, the original infrastructure may be physical or it may be virtual.
Right.
On the target side, you most likely will be virtual in this setup. You could be physical, but you most likely will be virtual. In that target environment, if you want an RPO that is really short, you also need the ability to incrementally update your VMs. So not only are you backing up an increment into the backup product, you're also taking that increment, applying it to a cold VMDK or a VHD file, and keeping that file up to date so you can bring it up. So that is the basic underlying mechanics of what you need to achieve, and we need to be able to do that across our entire portfolio, whether it be an enterprise product or whether it be the mid-market product. That's our current problem. The third part of it is one that you mentioned, that is orchestration. Orchestration is something we're working on with other groups over here, that is pan-Dell effectively, rather than just within the data protection group. But more importantly, yes, that is orchestration is a fundamental problem that needs to be handled over there. It may even be handled in a customer side by a third-party product in there. But the basic mechanics need to be there within the products to be able to achieve this.
Yeah, so that's exactly your problem though, because you've got a backup and recovery team building products that do backup and recovery, and you're calling DR a backup and recovery problem, but it's not. It's a business issue. So in order to solve that problem, you actually need to have completely different silos within Dell all working together to create an integrated product that is now complicated and deals with trying to be all things to all people, because you're doing like an enterprise thing. So, and now it's like, well, how do you price and sell that to someone? Because you're talking about integrated product sets and consolidation.
So
how do you sell what an enterprise product, which you're saying has a superset with all of the features of an SMB product, how do you price and sell that to someone who has like half a dozen servers?
Aha, we actually do that today. If you look at our Aperture line, right, what it does with DR, it offers DR as typically it partners with other people that offer DR as a service, where they take care of the orchestration at their end. Yeah. Product takes care of bringing up all the individual servers in the right order.
Right, so you have Aperture for that.
We have Aperture already for that.
So it's one product which is targeted at a specific market.
That's correct.
What you have. And you're not going to do that anymore.
No, that is going to happen in that particular market space, but the capabilities that Aperture brought in there are going to end up in the NetVault space as well.
Okay, so
NetVault is also going to end up doing block, it's also going to end up doing replication, DR, and being able to stand up VMs.
So for 18 to 20 months, when you're talking about having 2 to 3 products, you won't have Aperture being sold to that market anymore. So when your sales guys come in and say, hey, have I got a product for you, what are they selling now?
They are selling basically a superset of Aperture.
Okay.
In the mid-market space, basically.
I don't have enough money to pay for that.
Aha. So that's...
For example.
The interesting part of it is priced actually not that different from what it is priced today.
Okay. So if I flip it around and I'm an enterprise guy, why do I want to pay you more money for something which gives me all the same features that the SMB guy down the road gets?
Perfect.
For 10% of the price.
Right. So, I won't quote what the marketing guys will do on pricing in the future. But that said, that is actually not true. If that were true, right, then I would simply take my mid-market product and try to sell it in the enterprise. The reason we don't do that is image-based technologies come with their own set of caveats also. I was going to go into that a few slides into the future, but we can do that now. They're hard. Okay, getting a consistent snapshot with the right incrementals in place is actually quite hard. Yeah. Because even if I take Windows as an example, you can take VSS and QS the system. But VSS gives you a shadow volume. It doesn't tell you what blocks changed in the volume, so you need a filter driver in there. Similarly for Linux, if you have LVM, you get the snapshotting capability. But if you don't have LVM, most of the guys are running ext3 and ext4. You have no snapshotting capability.
Even if you're running LVM,
you don't get the diffs.
You still have to write a script to quiesce the application.
Yes. Yeah. So then comes the problem that comes in is I still at the end of it don't know which blocks have changed, and how do I make sure they don't change before I get it out?
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I can do is pause everything, get my backup out, and then resume everything, which is going to be slow as molasses. So it takes a fairly complex block driver that we have that does that job. The problem is every platform adding that driver is very complicated. It's an 18-month, 20-month exercise, and that's not something we want to take. Typically, what ends up happening then is the enterprise product, you have a lot of environments where file is good enough. Yes. Some where image is important.
Yes.
Okay. So file has the breadth of platform coverage and application stack coverage, which image does not.
Yeah.
So the enterprise product that we're selling is not the same as the mid-market product. It
Yeah.
has quite a few other things that the mid-market product simply does not have, that you do have to switch for that. And if you don't need it, even if you're an enterprise, you could actually use a mid-market product perfectly.
Okay, so they are different products.
They are different products internally.
Okay, so it's not one product that you're going
No,
to...
no, no,
so
no.
it's- yeah,
It is not one product I'm skinnying. That's what I was trying to make a different distinction there.
Okay.
It is not one product I'm skinnying. In fact, if I attempted to build such a one product, it will be a boil the ocean kind of scenario.
Yeah, you'd
NetVault is a C code base. Aperture and vRanger are C# code bases. It would be a complete rewrite. I mean,
And,
Yeah.
and, you know, and
it
the
will never
reason-
get done.
And the reason the enterprise guys still run Networker and NetBackup
Exactly.
is because they have 20 years of
Exactly.
supporting every application.
That is exactly
anybody ever
right.
came
So
to.
we don't want to do that. We really don't want to rip and replace stuff that they've already got in place that works. So the enterprise product is a true superset in that sense. It does what it currently does in terms of platform and application coverage. It also gets additional capabilities in block now, which it didn't have.
Okay.
And that's a NetVault-based product. It's not an Aperture-based product. It gets some capabilities that Aperture has, but it's not an Aperture-based product.
Okay.
Whereas a mid-market product is an Aperture-based product. But then it combines agent and agentless. I'll come to that in a few minutes.
And the vRanger technology
And the vRanger technologies in there.
fades away.
It will continue supporting that particular format, but effectively the mid-market is a merged product. It's neither vRanger nor Aperture. It's a combined product.
It's vAssure.
There you go. Marketing, please. we've got
I'll send a
suggestion.
bill.
So solutions for data protection, if you look Pandel, it encompasses a long sequence of things that we do in here. We've got Ecologic and Compellent for array-based snapshotting, directly array-based replication. And then you have the DL Aperture appliance, effectively, if you want to consume our mid-market product Aperture in an appliance form factor. Storage is already taken care of. And the appliance does more than just running software on hardware. It does array management, hardware management, a whole bunch of other things along with it. And plus it snapshots itself, which is one of the nice capabilities. Then if you look at the Quest pieces that we have, vRanger, NetVault, Lightspeed, near CDP performance in some cases, for example, like vRanger, Lightspeed, application-specific backup. It's the same as any virtualization technology. You can do it if you pushed it. But
I object to calling that kind of technology even near CDP. I mean, you can make backups frequently.
yes,
It is not, you know, there's no continuous data collection. You know, it's not the technology that
no, if you look at CDP per se, right? I mean, this is another distinction there. So what is really near CDP? What is good enough for most people? So 5-minute RPO. Is that good enough? Is that near CDP? Technically speaking, the data is being collected in the interim points. It is just not quiesced. Because once you attempt to quiesce applications, say every 10 seconds or so, your application runs dog slow. So even if I collected the necessary CDP data, I can't recover from it. So it generally becomes useless. Even in the Aperture case, they actually collect every single write that's going on in the hard disk. But it doesn't help to write it out.
And VMware does the change
Exactly.
block tracking for you.
Exactly. And neither of them quiesce at that frequency. They don't quiesce at like 10 seconds or 5 seconds or anything. Because at that point, you're ending up in SRDF territory, basically.
Right.
You might as well do it synchronously, and your needs are completely different. You're a $1 million software sale with a completely different set of requirements. This is a 90% of the market scenario. The other thing that some of these products are quite strong at, basically, is tape support. I mean, everybody keeps saying tape is going to go away next year. Well, next year hasn't arrived yet. Tape is still around. We still get requests for it. And NetVault has probably one of the preeminent libraries for tape support. It supports everything from 30 years ago onwards. It even has a language for writing drivers for tapes, if you would believe that. They can classify tapes and tell you, oh, this tape looks like this with these 3 bugs effectively in its firmware. And there's a language to describe that. And that's how they support new tape libraries. It's kind of interesting. The PowerVault MD and NX family for VTL, essentially. And VTL is effectively a spanning technology between tape and disk. This is another thing that distinguishes more modern backup products from the older ones, which is older products tend to view disk as a special case of tape.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a problem, really.
Just kind
if you look at the format they used to write to disk, it's some kind of tar CPIO combined file format, where you have to do source side deduplication for those systems, part one. And second, you have to do variable length deduplication. If not, the compressed format, a little bit of movement in and there, and deduplication is completely thrown off. It's a fairly fundamental difference. They don't take advantage of the relatively random access nature of disks.
It's rather perverse, actually.
Unfortunately. And most of the newer products, many of them that Howard mentioned earlier, are true disk-based products. They view tape as something that I have to take my disk-based product and fit it around rather than the other way around. Sonic Wall, endpoint protection. And this product, we're actually moving, we're taking CDP and moving it in a different direction. We're moving it to do more endpoint. Originally, when that piece of software was Lasso, prior to Sonic Wall's own acquisition of it, it used to do endpoint, desktop, laptop really well. Then they added servers because that was a point solution. It was a point product. It was not really a solution. And so they made a product, a solution out of it by adding server capability. The server capability was ho-hum. But the endpoint piece that they had was actually kind of cool. So that is the part that we're making, pulling that out.
That's going to grow into your desktop.
That's going to grow into my desktop and laptop offering. Okay. We're taking that component out, expanding upon it.
And I will buy that the endpoint protection should be different. The approach should be different.
Yes, because for endpoint, I'm not looking for a block-based solution. I'm looking for a quiesced file-based solution. And I'll argue for that.
Right.
Even
no, and to some extent, you want offline protection too. You want to.
That is exactly right. The ability to shut the laptop down and not have that backup software do the office space on you, like saving.
Well, I mean, that and, I'm someplace where there isn't Wi-Fi for 3 days, but I want all the versions of the files that I did save on the local disk so I can revert. Because we're talking about protection from the user, not protection against device
failure. Exactly. The most common use case we have found for laptop protection is not protection from failure of the hard disk, which is, in spite of what everyone will tell you, myself included, is relatively rare.
No, lost laptops are probably more common than
even
disk drives and laptops.
Disk drives that fail. I mean, in 15 years, I've had, I think, two laptop hard disks so far out of probably 30 laptops I've owned in the period that have actually died. But other than that, it's not laptop failure that you're protecting against. You're protecting against, I changed this file. I need an older version of it. And that's exactly what the product is designed to do. And do that completely offline. And so it actually builds much of a backup server directly onto your laptop itself. And it has the ability to go back to points in time and give you literally an Explorer window as a drive letter to you. So that's one of the nice capabilities in there. Literally, you could be on a flight with no network connectivity and go back and say, hey, at 8 a.m. in the morning, I made edits to this file. Show me that version. And that is not any of our other products. It's fundamentally different. And it's both a managed and an unmanaged product. It has a prosumer user interface, self-managed completely. But if it's run in a managed environment from a central console, they can set policies as to what you can do and can't do with the laptop. That's about it. But otherwise, it's not something you don't want to call an administrator because desktop laptop protection is not high on a lot of people's lists. All users ask for it. All IT budgets say that can't be done. It's too expensive or too hard.
I've constantly been astounded when I talk to the IT professionals and they say, well, that the user should be responsible for that. And then you say, are your users responsible? And they say no.
No.
And it's like, okay, your users are irresponsible, but you're
still doing it.
But you're saying that it's their responsibility.
Exactly.
So who are you going to be selling to? Are you going to sell that product to the IT department, or are you going to sell it to the end users?
So actually both. For the pitch to the IT department is you can get this almost for free. It costs you very little to nothing. Okay. Think of all your lost productivity. Otherwise, it talks to the same backend array that you've already established for your other products that you bought. Okay. And the third part is you can also do the flip side of the sale. One of the things is this is something we may push with every laptop that we're selling out there. Purely prosumer, individual customer at home. He's got a little NAS box plugged in somewhere in the house. He can back up to it. So it's not purely an enterprise sale. It could be a complete prosumer home environment kind of sale.
One engine, two management.
One engine, two manifestations, managed and unmanaged, effectively.
Another question. I don't want to foreshadow too much. You've got like 7 zillion products on that list there, and you're talking about consolidation. Do you, at some point, have a map that says features from like these products are going to consolidate into something?
Not in today's stock.
No,
not in today's stock. But I can talk to it if you want. So, for instance, Ecologic and Compellent, we are actually integrating both our mid-market and our upper-end product to be able to take snapshots directly from those arrays. So you can use array snapshot, be able to bring it up in the backup system, And effectively, the backup system has to ingest a snapshot. It does it on the SAN, not on your LAN.
So are you also going to do snapshot indexing the way the C guys do? So
Yeah.
Okay.
So with our products, we already have internal prototypes built of these. And so
Right.
point is when we take it to market.
Yeah, well, you also have to extend that so that you can do it with somebody else's.
Yeah, that's exactly
Not
right.
everybody has Dell storage, much to your chagrin.
That is true. The remaining products, if you look at it,
I mean,
the
I don't even
Aperture
have
and
Dell
Quest-
storage because nobody'd send it to me, but that's another story.
The SonicWall, Aperture, and Quest products are all within our portfolio, and they are integrating anyway.
Okay.
So vRanger and Aperture are integrating to our mid-market product. NetVault and Lightspeed will take in Lightspeed capabilities as well to do application level, particularly for databases, SQL Server and Oracle.
Yep.
And NetVault also inherits capabilities from Aperture, but not code from Aperture. Okay, so it has block capabilities on top of its file capabilities.
Okay.
SonicWall is going into an endpoint protection product,
Yep.
and DL and DR are our appliance form factors. So DR is our Ocarina appliance, deduplication appliance,
Yep.
but it has special modes when it works. It works better with Dell products than with non-Dell products. Well, actually, that's not completely true. It does work quite well with some of the other non-Dell products too. But effectively, we have direct access to the RDA engines that run inside Ocarina. So if you use Ocarina as storage for your backup, then you end up with a bunch of other capabilities. Heavy lifting is being done there. If you use it as a software, then the back end is based on Ocarina software, but it will be your storage array.
Yeah. Okay.
So some of those pieces are already complete. It's just the pace at which we're rolling them out effectively.
Okay.
Just some statistics. 82,000 customers. We went in 14 months from being a reseller of somebody else's IP to our own IP. And we're number 6 in market share now. We're growing fairly rapidly.
And how many of those customers are in Japan?
Not that many, actually. You'd be surprised. Japan used to be NetVault's major focus area, but less than a third, most likely.
Okay.
We're adding about 3,000 customers every quarter into this mix. Most of that growth is North America. 30 of the top 40 banks use our products. And about 400 petabytes is being backed up in just one site, which is one of the top 3 search providers.
One of the top 3 search providers. That would mean
I
it's the
believe
number
that too.
3 search provider. That
So-
would mean it's those Y guys. Okay.
This is where I was going to actually whiteboard a bit. I'm assuming these will work.
Oh, you guys do that too?
So here's the thing. If you look at it from a market perspective, some of the things that I was going to talk about here I talked about earlier. But fundamentally, if you look at it, 2 different technologies, right? Most of the older products were based upon file-based technologies. So you did data backup and data recovery. Most of the newer solutions, last 5 or 6 years, that have come out have been image-based technologies. And the fundamental philosophical difference between them is, in one case, I recover my data, but it's up to me to reinstall the operating system, reinstall any patches it has, reinstall applications on top of it, make sure that part is good, then attach the data to it, and everything will hopefully work. Now, that's a far more painful process. There are some tricks that people have used around it where they would take a relatively recent snapshot of the hard disk over there and try to munch things on top of it, but it's not necessarily application consistent. So, slides. So this, the image-based guys on the other side, they look at a disk. So you effectively think of it as a set of volumes that your application server is running on, and the value proposition over there is fundamentally different. The value proposition is the application. So you're not recovering a server, you're recovering an application. I mean, if you think in the mid-market, right, most of these guys look at computing itself and think of it as a tool, right? If you're a tool and die shop, okay, you have a set of lathes potentially, and you look at your email server basically as a way to get orders in. That's the utility. Don't tell, if you're a backup product vendor over there and you say, oh, I got your Exchange server's data backer, but you still have to reinstall your Exchange server, he's going to look at you and go like, so what? I need that Exchange server running. If it's not running, then I'm not getting my orders in, and I only have a limited window where I can take that kind of a downtime before my business goes under.
Yeah, but then I also need to deal with the user error when they call and they say, we lost our spreadsheet. Don't remember exactly what it was called. We don't remember exactly when we saw it
When it was
last.
saved, absolutely. Indexing becomes a major issue over there. And the guy, in fact, we've had worse ones. I don't even remember what the file name was, and it was sometime in the last week. So there are many of these interesting problems that come in. Indexing has to be combined. Most image-based systems don't do indexing today.
Right.
And that's one of the things we're building in, a comprehensive cataloging indexing system, much like what NetVault had, but the next generation of it, something that can scale. And that has to work for block-based systems too. You can't have block-based systems that say, here is a point in time, open it up, do a window search inside. Is it there? No, go back to the next one. You're going to be doing that forever.
And that's got to be just not just for files, but for Exchange and SharePoint and some of the other common applications.
Some of the other
as well.
internal items, exactly. So indexing is one of the major things that is sitting on our lap here. So block, effectively, the goal is bring up your whole application stack, in which case you have to quiesce the applications as well. Make sure that the stuff is consistent. And in other cases, there are also application-specific checks that you can do. For Exchange, you can do checksum checks on the database. For SQL, you can attach to the database and see if the database was quiesced correctly and attached. Because in many cases, we find the following. In fact, there is even more stranger cases. One typical case that we end up finding is this. And we have specific examples of this. You're backing up happily. Your underlying volume actually in Windows is corrupt. Okay? You reboot the machine, fails check disk. You go to your backup, they're all corrupt too. So basically, you never found when the corruption actually happened, and you have to keep going backwards till you find something that will actually mount, and you've lost quite a bit of data. Wouldn't it be nice if your backup system actually told you that? That your hard disk is corrupt because I'm running a check disk on the backup copy of it, and it's showing me corruption, and I'm showing you at least at the point of corruption, so you don't lose another 3, 4, or a week's more worth of data. Similar thing happens with Exchange. Sometimes Exchange database underneath is corrupt. And so net result, the server will continue adding to the corrupt database, but if you reboot the server, it's not going to come back up. Application health checks become an important thing. How recoverable is my data? And that's a big metric that is critical. Because at the end of the day, the data is not recoverable. You may come up with a nice excuse for saying, this is why my data was not recovered. But at the end of the day, it's insurance. It didn't pay up. It didn't actually get my data back. It didn't get my server back.
Is this something you're looking to do or already doing?
We're already doing this. But we're not doing it across our entire portfolio. Okay. So these are some of the things that we want to extend so that the same capabilities exist across our portfolio.
And you need to extend that. You know, one of the things that Veeam did that really was a major breakthrough is, let you restore applications to a sandbox so that you can actually do the DR test without having to shut the primary system down.
That's correct. So one of the interesting things is with the Aperture technology, you have the ability to export similarly to a VM, bring up your application in there. And as long as its MAC address is pulled out, as long as the DHCP is pointed elsewhere, you can do this similar kind of test back with that.
The real impressive part with that was that it restored from the actual backup file without being hydrated.
Right.
That you didn't have to restore it and then put it in the
rapid
sandbox.
restore. Yeah.
So the same thing can be done here by mounting effectively.
Okay.
So one of the technologies that Aperture has is you don't have to hydrate a particular recovery point in order to view it. So it does it typically in a few seconds. What it gives you is a drive letter. It has a underneath filter driver that shows you the drive letter. And there you can go and pull in any file. And it may be a multi-T volume.
So it doesn't consider the backup complete unless that passes its check?
That's exactly right. Okay. Otherwise, it will actually flag that. And when it has retention policies, it will skip those.
Okay.
So you don't end up rolling a bad potential backup into a good potential backup. Cool. Several of these application capabilities that are critical. The other part of it is basically replication. So typical model over here is you've got your application server going to a backup server. Typical file backup, you buy a second product either from the same company or some other company that does replication for you. This side, you either put up compute and write to storage.
Right, yeah, you need a catcher.
You need a catcher on the other side, exactly. Or, and this is basically...
Rotate that
just so it's visible.
Yeah, that's
there
good.
we go.
This is
And-
why we can't have nice things.
It happens, right? So, and this is your sort of poor man's DR.
Right. See, and now I want that compute to be an EC2 instance, and I want that storage to be an S3 instance.
That is exactly right. Now, here is the interesting thing that comes out of this exercise, which is, today when we are looking at backup products, the way they view the cloud They may have compute in the cloud, or they may write straight to S3. The problem is, what they've got at the end of the day is a model wherein cloud is storage. Cloud is fast iron mountain. Okay? What you're asking for is the interesting one, which is you want your compute to be EC2.
Yeah,
right?
I want the cloud to be a poor man's sun guard, not a poor man's Iron Mountain.
Exactly. You want the cloud to be a poor man's sun guard, or literally an MSP-like solution, rather than just be storage. So effectively, what happens now? You have a failure at this site. Let's say this guy goes down. You want the ability to go off this storage, pop up a VM in the cloud.
Well, if it's one app, I probably wouldn't. But if the whole site goes away, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. If it's a site, I mean, one app, you'd most likely bring it up locally. But if you lost that particular site, what you would like to bring up is a VM instance on the other side, which means somebody has to do the P2V over there.
Or
V2V.
Or V2V.
Exactly.
Because
and more specifically, it's either V2C or P2C, because this is not a standard VM on the other side. This is where we have some unique technologies, EC2 being one example of that. Today, our product, at least publicly, does replication from region to region. Full application consistent in Amazon. It's the only product out there. So if you have failure of US East, most of you have. So each of the EC2's AWS zones over there, regions, has multiple availability zones, but the zones are fairly close to each other. So failures of things
they
like,
fail together.
yes, they fail together. At least the couple of instances that it has happened, they've all failed together. And then the problem is you're completely out. What the product offers is the ability to replicate from, say, US East to US West or to Ireland or anywhere else. And it's completely consistent. And it shows back up, basically, your same EBS volumes from one side show up on the other side, and the application pops back up. So that capability we've had for a year. We haven't actually marketed very much to it. We have a few customers who read the manual and figured that out.
But that's EC2 to EC2.
That is EC2 to EC2.
Yeah, see, I want on-premise
You want
Hyper-V
on-premise
or
to EC2.
VMware to
Right.
EC2.
VMware, so that is the thing that we've actually got as a prototype internally. And that is the thing that we're going to take out to market. Because EC2 is particularly hard, simply because the underlying hypervisor infrastructure is non-standard. Amazon will not necessarily give you all those drivers that are needed in there.
You know, and the truth is, it doesn't have to be EC2. You know, if you're going to say it's got to be to virtual stream so that it's vSphere hosted, I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
So I want on-premises hypervisor to cloud.
To cloud.
And on-premises P to cloud.
Cloud. So
because
today,
I have one big SQL server that I could virtualize, but it would take a whole host when I virtualized it, and so that would mean I was paying for vSphere licenses for the sake of having it virtualized, and I'm not spending that money.
that's correct.
But in disaster, I want it to run virtual.
So interestingly enough, the capability, if it is not, if it is P2 cloud, where cloud is running vSphere or potentially even Hyper-V, that capability we have today.
Right.
It is the capability where you go P2 sort of non-standard cloud infrastructures
Right.
that is coming out. So the second part that comes in is many of the cloud providers, if you look at their block solutions, life is a little more complicated. They have fixed sizes, such as 1 terabyte.
And they doth sucketh.
And yes, that is true too. Performance-wise, they're not the fastest in the world, to put it mildly. So the interesting thing that ends up over there is, how do I start with an Exchange server that had a 5T repository on the source, bring it up as a block store in Amazon, which has a 1T restriction? So you have to do something more than just P2C. You have to start software raiding this 5T and spread it across and still get NTFS to recognize all of this. So there is some complex work that goes on in making that particular piece happen. But P2C is something that we are working on currently, and it is something that is part of our portfolio in there. But this is what the future looks like, in the sense that cloud is going to be a very major part of people's disaster recovery plans. If you look at SMB and lower end of mid-market, if you look at a conventional DR plan, it's too expensive. You walk into them and say, hey, I got a DR product for you. The guy looks at it and says, like, look, man, too many zeros in your product price and too few zeros in my budget. Okay. And then the part that you have to go back and say, look, DR, backup, all of this is together, part one. It's a value proposition that is unique to backup in that sense that they should always have been one product in the first place. And the second part of it is, no, it doesn't have to cost you $1 million to do this. Okay, and several of our SMB mid-market customers today have better DR plans than some of the enterprise customers that we have. And it's just a fact of life because they have the right product running at their right scale. But going into the cloud, viewing cloud as both a combination of compute and storage is what is different. It should not just be another Iron Mountain where I'm dumping storage in there, where I'm dumping just my backup or archival copies. It's got to be something I can bring up VMs from and start the system up. Next slide. So if you look at our current portfolio and what we are doing with it, three major pieces in there. If I look at the biggest blocks that I have, I'll ignore the appliances and other components in there. The three major software components. NetVault. The big advantage is it protects very large volumes of data. It's a conventional file-based backup system, data backup system. But its strength lies in the number of different platforms it supports, the number of different tape media it supports, the number of different applications it supports. It's very, very large. Practically most platforms under the sun, HBox, AIX, Solaris, Windows of various flavors, Linux of various flavors, and even more esoteric ones. Tape libraries similarly, 20-year history of tape libraries in there. And application stacks that stretch even now, supported application stacks all the way back to Oracle 8, because we still have customers as far back as that. Aperture is a mid-market product. It's an image-based product, so the convention is very small RTO, RPOs. The notion is no backup windows, you protect almost continuously. And then it also integrates DR, replication DR, and all of those capabilities directly into the product. A third part is vRanger. So vRanger is a virtualization-specific product. The core technology in there is the ability to do agentless backup directly, integrate directly with vCenter consoles. And it's also a mid-market product as it stands right now. All of these have the ability to go into our DR appliance, which effectively, so if you're sticking with an appliance strategy, you can buy appliance form factor and go with appliance storage essentially. Next slide, please. So I wanted to end with this. The tale of our woes. So since the software group was created last year, we have been relatively quiet as we've been integrating our own internal strategies. As I mentioned earlier, right? We went from 0 products to 11 products in less than 6 months originally. Starting from February to November, 9 months, we ended up with a massive spread of portfolio products. And then we had to sit and rationalize and figure out where we integrate. So generally speaking, we had not actually talked to analysts. So there had been a lot of rumors that had been creeping up on what we are doing and what we plan to be doing.
What happens when you don't talk to us?
That's true.
We make stuff up.
Well, it's actually, so if I look at plausible deniability, it's better than me making stuff up. If I had talked to you earlier, I would have been making stuff up. So
Fair point.
the first one, we're killing parts of our portfolio. No, we're integrating parts of our portfolio. We're not killing anything in our portfolio. So if you were a current customer, you do have a path with our integrated portfolio with something that perfectly well works with what you got in there. As I mentioned earlier, we got 82,000 customers. We don't really have major plans for dropping most of them. Wouldn't be a smart thing to survive. So Dell is changing too much. We can't partner with them. So this was a comment that came a few weeks ago from one of our enterprise partners, sort of publicly. And not entirely true. So the claim is, oh, there is this whole LBO thing happening, so net result, there will be a major impact on the businesses. And, well, we can't really partner with them. It's not really true. The basic thing over there is we are going to lead with our own IP. We're not going to be a reseller. Okay? And within the data protection business, this is a core tenet for us. We will step away from many of our resale relationships where we have our own IP that competes with it. It doesn't make sense for us. Our margins are better. It's our own system, and we have much greater control over the destiny of our products than of somebody else's products. And so that is much of the cause of some of this angst, that we will be stepping away from many of our resale relationships. Dell doesn't sell enterprise data protection solutions. Not really true. We have quite a few enterprise solutions in place, PAN, Dell, and even within data protection, the NetVault family sells quite well in that space. It may not be at par, say, with the top end of the product line over there, but we are building it to be able to go over there as well. Next part, agentless is the only way to go for virtualization solutions. In our portfolio, we sell both agent-based and agentless. So to be perfectly honest, I got both the dogs in the fight. So I don't really care which dog wins. But honestly, I'll tell you what the differences are. Yes, agentless is nice. It's a lower management footprint, or at least lower perceived management footprint. But that said, there are some things you can't do with agentless. Okay? You can't grab application metadata from an Exchange server or a SQL server without there being an agent inside. And without that metadata, you can't actually check if what you're backing up is corrupted or not.
Yeah.
So
the truth is, agents are evil, but sometimes they're necessary
that
evil.
is exactly. Sometimes they are a necessary evil. And we are going to give you the choice. You want to go agentless? Happily, we've got a product for you. And we've got a capability. The same product, in our integrated version, the same product can be deployed both agentless or agent-based. And today, we've got 2 different products that do that. But as a bundle, you can pick and choose which one you want to deploy where. So agentless does have its set of disadvantages. And if you actually go in and take a look at some of the agentless solutions out there, just go to Task Manager, Control-Alt-Del, and see if there are agents running. You might be surprised at the results you find.
That's not an agent. That's something else.
It miraculously
That's a
showed up in my
driver.
Task
That's
Manager. It's not an agent. Yeah, this is not the agent. Exactly. So unfortunately, it's more hype than reality. Yes, you can absolutely. Can you deploy it agentless? Yes. But you lose a whole bunch of things in the process. You should try lock truncation in Exchange without an agent in there. And without lock truncation, you'd see the world is quite different. Aperture has quality issues.
We're not going to believe anything you say about that.
Oh, in this particular case, actually, you might be surprised. Yes, it did.
Yes.
Okay. So Aperture 5, the one that released last year in February, was a brand new product. It did not have anything to do with the previous product. The previous product, Replay 4, that had a 4-year plus lifespan in it. It had reached the limits of what it could scale to. 5 was a complete rewrite, multi-million line code base. So it did have its growing pains. And you get a chance to do this once in the life of a company because it's a large, expensive exercise. And you have to get it right the first time in terms of scale and the basic architecture because it's going to last about 10, 12 years at least before you get a shot at doing any re-architecture. So it has had its growing pains. I'm not going to hide that fact. But it has been getting consistently better and better and better and better till it is left now. Many of the cases where we still hear from irate customers, and validly so, is sins that we committed back in October through January. And these are sins that no longer are there in the product, but those are customers that did face quite a few of the product quality issues in there. Most of that is gone now. It is continuing to get better, basically. But the advantage of what you get with it is it's a brand new architecture. It was designed fundamentally from the back end for scale, to be able to handle very fast data rates effectively.
I think what hurt you in that is the fact that there were Aperture quality issues, and then you went silent for so long. And all that did was validate it. Yeah. And I think you guys are going to spend some time cleaning that up.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been at client sites where they said, we can't even consider Aperture. We've been hearing bad things, and there's nobody telling us any different.
Yeah. So one of the things was it grew very rapidly. It was adding 2,500, 2,800 customers every quarter. A very large proportion, over and over and over. And the rest of the organization was not keeping up with it. Our support wasn't growing as fast as it should have been growing. Our engineering QA wasn't growing as fast as it was growing. And net result was it created issues just from growth. And this is what starting January, they put fairly heavy focus on making sure that this as a problem was being addressed directly.
Look, is it addressed now?
Yes. Support is more than
if somebody
doubled.
bought Aperture today,
if you went and downloaded Aperture or bought Aperture today, odds are not going to run into anything.
they're what?
The odds are you're not going to run into anything.
Okay.
Most of our typical
But
new
they'll
customers.
get backups, right? I'm kidding.
Because we had this problem in North America much more so than we had in EMEA. The reason for it was EMEA, the translated versions came in later, so they actually got a product that didn't have as many
crunchy
issues.
bugs taken out before they got translated.
Yeah, before they got translated. So net result, they had far fewer issues. And in some cases where the issues are, there were lots of environmental checks that needed to be put in the product in the first place. So it could stop working or at least warn you that you're running in an infrastructure where it's not likely going to work. You should try and Exchange checksum check when a customer plugs in a USB hard drive. And it's doing 10 megs a second, and he's got a 1.5T Exchange database in there. The checksum is going to take forever. It's just basic laws of physics on his hard disk spinning over there, which is not spinning fast enough, really, to do the job.
So
But these kinds of things we should catch.
once again, the big issue you're trying to deal with is PEBCAT. Problem exists between keyboard and chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good one. I didn't know that.
Well,
it does.
It sounds like basically you shipped a product too early.
We shipped a product earlier than we probably should have, and
Yeah.
we grew disproportionately.
Well, yeah, I'm confused about the growth because what you're saying is that your software has more bugs when it sells more. And
it's because you end up seeing more corner cases on a more complex product than you would see otherwise.
Okay.
And they had an outbound sales.
More bugs.
Yeah.
And they had an outbound sales model that was easy to scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the model scaled very rapidly.
They scaled sales very quickly because that sales model was easy to scale.
Yeah.
But the support organization was much harder to scale, and nobody said, we shouldn't grow sales faster than we grow support because then people will get on the support line and have a 12-hour hold and get somebody that doesn't know the answer.
And if you wanted to be harsh, you could say that if the product didn't have so many bugs, you wouldn't need so much support. But that's, admit, all software has bugs.
True.
That's cool. I understand that. So so it sounds like you had some QA issues early on with a product that shipped and sold quicker than you anticipated.
And it's also a far more complex product by its default installation. Many of those defaults got changed. For instance, if you take environments with CCR or DAG, Exchange clusters or SQL clusters, there's a fairly complex set of operations you got to do right. And the customer on their part, unless they have a good Exchange admin or a SQL admin, may not keep up with the patches. So sometimes you'll find a Microsoft patch in there. None of the guys from support put up a KB article saying, hey guys, there's a Microsoft patch. There is a bug in Exchange right now. It is not doing log truncation correctly that you think. Okay, but then it shows up as our problem, basically.
Yeah.
And so many of these corner cases kept coming up effectively as we scaled.
Yeah, so you mentioned before that as a company you only get to do this once. It's like, so you've just sold a product to a lot of customers who are now unhappy with that. How are you going to get them to trust you again?
So that's a good point. It's a valid question. You only get to do a re-architecture. No, what I meant earlier was you only get to do a re-architecture of a product once, where you rebuild the whole thing from scratch.
Not that you only get to screw up once. But,
that's also likely true.
But you do get a limited number of screw-ups.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So this one, that's why we have gone back to most of our customers. Those that had problems, there is fairly maniacal focus on support on this thing to make sure that things are addressed immediately. Now, if you look at our support portfolio, for instance, majority of the cases that come in, majority meaning like over 80% is like less than 2 days. The reaction time is far quicker. Hardly anything stays over a week. Okay. The second thing we also made sure with engineering is when they find issues, the first goal over there is make sure that the customer is brought back to a working case. Let's say there is an issue. As you said, all software does have bugs. So the question of how you react when you run across bugs. Do you say, okay, every 3 months I release a service pack release. Wait for the next service pack. Or the focus that has been the last few months is, if you've got a problem, we've got a fix, we will come in and custom fix your environment. Okay, and other customers that run it can go this. You don't have to wait for the next service pack release. Typical engineering reaction time now is 1 week. So they will have your problem. If it turns out to be a product problem, they will have it fixed within a week.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're pushing that very hard to make sure that that quality problems that are there or any perception issues that are sitting in there from things that we did in the past go away.
Okay.
So with that, the last. With that, I'll end.
There's a question that came through Twitter that I thought was good. That made me.
Please.
Luca asked, why don't you simply this is about the whole mid-market enterprise. Why don't you just simply design a good product and sell to both markets? Don't like the difference between mid and enterprise. Both have the same needs.
Good point. So the primary difference that we see, at least from market analysis, is the following. You build if you build a single product and sell it to both segments over there, you're selling potentially an overly complex product for the mid-market. That's one of our big fears over there. As an example, if you have a mid-tier mid-market customer or an SMB customer, you don't want to be selling them vCloud Director. It will take 4 admins to just manage it. So a mid-market product is designed to have a much simpler experience, a simpler UI, a simpler, smaller footprint in there. It's not like 6 servers you're dedicating to managing a big backup fabric. Now, if you take an enterprise infrastructure, you may be protecting thousands or tens of thousands of servers. That scenario, you have more than one management system over there, coordinating activities, most likely federated, and potentially a single or more than one console managing all of this. It's a much more complex infrastructure, more complex cataloging, and a much bigger hardware footprint. So taking one product and then trying to skinny it down doesn't quite work. The fabric is fundamentally different. And so mid-market, our customers tend to be cost conscious quite a bit. Enterprise environment is big enough that in many cases, cost is not the parameter you win on. But mid-market cost is a major parameter.